Welcome to the Group 2 presentation of the Federal Credit Hour Plan. Group 2 participants are Vakisha Baker, Denton Carter, Marcia Koger, Carrie Beth Pettingill, Ina Wilson-Smith, Leah Thompson, and Patrice Watson.
On November 8, 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Higher Education Act of 1965, otherwise known as the HEA. This act was signed as a measure to strengthen the educational resources of our colleges and universities and to provide financial assistance for students in post-secondary and higher education. HEA created grants, loans, and education-related programs to assist students seeking post-secondary degrees or training. Since 1965, HEA has been reauthorized or amended several times. During the rulemaking process in 2009 and 2010, the U.S. Department of Education proposed that a definition be included in its regulations. This proposal was submitted in response to the Inspector General's criticism of regional accreditation agencies becoming lax in their review of institutional practices. The credit hour, as proposed, would be a measurement for the award of federal student aid. During the data collection phase of the rulemaking process, the U.S. Department of Education found that students attending for-profit institutions accounted for 11% of post-secondary education students, 26% of student loans, and 43% of loan defaulters. They also found that the median federal student loan debt for those students earning an associate degree at a for-profit was about $14,000. Finally, more than 25% of for-profit institutions receive 80% of their revenue from taxpayer-financed federal student aid. On October 29, 2010, the Obama administration published proposed regulations amending institutional eligibility under HEA and the integrity of Title IV programs. On April 13, 2011, the Obama administration published the final rule in the Federal Register. The final rule will be effective on or around July 1, 2012, and was the result of over 90,000 comments received during the public commenting period.
Thanks, Carrie Beth. Under the Federal Title IV regulation, community colleges are experiencing a number of challenges. One significant challenge requires colleges to calculate the student's entitlement based on the hours actually taken. If the student owes the government a reimbursement, the school must notify the student within 30 days of the determination. The student has 45 days to retain Title IV eligibility by returning the amount in full or making satisfactory arrangements to repay the funds to the Department of Education. The student failure to do either within the allotted 45-day period will result in the college obligation to report the overpayment to the Department of Education. As an example, Anne Arundel Community College policy and procedures suggested that refunds are returned to the appropriate federal aid program based on the percentage of unearned aid used. The student may owe a balance to Anne Arundel Community College, which leaves the college with the responsibility of collecting the debt. If the student earned more aid than was dispersed, the college would owe the student a post-withdrawal disbursement, which must be paid within 120 days of the student withdrawal. If the student doesn't pay, the school is obligated to return the entire amount, leaving the school totally liable if the student does not complete their financial obligation. Another significant challenge is, according to Title IV, institutions are required to list specific financial assistance information and calculation tools on the institution's website to assist students. The development and the maintenance of these sites are completed without compensation to the institution. These processes alone require additional manpower and is time-consuming. Additionally, to keep accurate records of the process, a tracking system is required. All of these processes place an enormous burden on institutions financially. As a result, most colleges feel this new requirement is unfair and unnecessary. Patrice will discuss some of the decisions of the college.
Thank you, Denton. In order for colleges to be compliant with the new regulations, all stakeholders needed an understanding of the Federal Credit Hour Plan. The new regulations are part of efforts to increase the level of accountability by the nation's colleges and universities. These regulations also contain a strong measure of consumer protection for current and future students. The federal student aid programs are primarily dependent on the credit hour for making funding decisions, as are other forms of aid, including state student aid programs and certain programs administered through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Credit hours are the metric used by the department to measure eligibility for federal funding. With the explosion of online post-secondary education and accelerated programs, the value of a credit hour becomes increasingly important to ensure that students and taxpayers get what they are paying for. The decision to be compliant directly impacts accreditation and federal funding. Each institution had to collaborate with all stakeholders. How have colleges decided to implement the mandated Federal Credit Hour Plan? Institutions set their own standards for academic purposes. Each institution devised a distinct plan with timeline. The Department of Education mandated that each higher education institution provide information on their websites regarding transfer and credit policies, textbook services including career and placement, refund and withdrawals, student activities, and a price calculator for tuition. A post-secondary institution is allowed to deliver a portion of another institution's educational program through a written arrangement. Institutions are already committed to working together with states to ensure compliance with all applicable state laws. For an example, an official from Kaplan University, a for-profit institution, said, "An extensive governance process is in place to manage curriculum changes, such as credit hours, to provide the necessary validation. We expect our schools to comply with the government's definition of a credit hour as it is currently proposed." At Frederick Community College, located within the Middle States Association of Colleges and Schools accrediting region, a federal credit hour plan has been established effective September 15, 2011, as the institution received reaccreditation. The implementation goal for the first year was that 10% of all syllabus include explanation of credit value and time allotments. Ongoing monitoring and modifications, as well as feedback for all colleges and university implementation of the Federal Credit Hour Plan is forthcoming.
Thank you, Patrice. With the implementation of the Title IV Federal Credit Hour Rule, department chairs and individual faculty at community colleges will be required to design a tool to reasonably estimate the amount of time students spend working independently on their coursework for each class. Assuring content rigor is a major goal when enforcing program integrity. With the increased rigor proposed by higher classroom standards, students should reap the benefits of a better quality education. This should in turn produce higher caliber employees to enter the workforce. At Frederick Community College, department chairs will identify a sample syllabus for a typical 3-credit course currently in use from an experienced faculty member and show student work totaling 25 hours of outside class for every credit hour to share and assist in developing a faculty resource tool. Department chairs are also required to identify courses not fitting the 3-credit, 37.5-hour in-class format and recommend solutions to meet the federal credit hour standard. The faculty will then be responsible for adjusting and re-estimating the length of time for students to complete out-of-class work for each semester. This will contribute to the workload of faculty and department chairs, but a responsive institution strives to meet the needs of the students. This requirement should assist students with having realistic expectations of what college work coursework will entail. Institutions will hopefully make provisions for release time for faculty to work on their course revisions without negatively contributing to the faculty workload.
What's the impact of the Federal Credit Hour Rule? It has initiated a debate in the higher education community. Administrators feel cautious about the federal government regulating the definition of a credit hour. Other college officials feel the ruling will limit schools in terms of when courses are offered to accommodate non-traditional students and working adults. What's the impact on for-profit institutions? While public institutions have to enforce the new rule, for-profit higher education institutions will experience the greatest impact. Minority, low-income, disadvantaged, and older students are 4 times as likely to enroll in for-profit institutions as compared to other students. Tuition rates also are higher. As a result of the enrollment of the student population, combined with high tuition rates, for-profit higher education institutions receive larger amounts of federal student financial aid. What's the impact on organizations? It has added extra responsibility to accredited organizations. These organizations must now learn a new law, will evaluate the institutions, and will be required to report any discrepancies to the U.S. Department of Education. States must also review and evaluate the institution's policies and procedures. How has the policy impacted the functions of the college? Colleges have to rewrite their policies and communicate the new policy in student handbooks and on their websites. But most of all, colleges will now have to evaluate the definition of a full-time student and what is considered a complete academic year.
Thank you, Marcia. The financial costs for implementing the Federal Credit Hour Plan are embedded within the existing cost for employees' salaries. Since faculty and administrators are charged with supervising the educational experience of all students, implementing a federal mandate such as the Federal Credit Hour Plan already falls within the scope of teaching and administrative responsibilities. Anticipated time commitments for out-of-class work in each course can be estimated by instructors who are currently teaching a course and therefore more familiar with the current course syllabus. Plans for the current semester should be reviewed at the end of the semester in order to assess the accuracy of the out-of-class assignment time commitments. As instructors evaluate and submit these plans, department chairs and upper administration should review the plans to create department-wide and college-wide consistency and standardization. Providing that faculty members are permitted to review their syllabi during office hours or contracted planning times, the college will not incur additional cost for faculty salaries. Any additional cost during implementation of the credit hour plan will emerge as overpaid Title IV awards. As Denton mentioned earlier, ultimately the college is responsible for all discrepancies between student disbursements and student financial aid awards. If a student incorrectly receives more than the calculated award and does not refund the college must still repay Title IV. While the situation is not uniquely related to the implementation of the credit hour plan, this is a type of cost which the college may incur during the process. Administrators should also devise a timeline which allows for review of all course offerings. This slide shows a sample timeline constructed by the faculty and administration at Frederick Community College. It assigns deadlines to all components required to implement and review individual course plans. This slide further outlines the college-wide plan for incorporating the out-of-class work time requirements into all course offerings and syllabi at Frederick Community College. The estimated time frame for completion of 100% compliance with the Federal Credit Hour Plan is 2 years.
In conclusion, the definition of a credit hour was one of the most hotly contested parts of the program integrity rules. The Federal Credit Hour not only has an impact on for-profit colleges and universities, but the definition could interfere with nonprofit institutions' rights to determine its own curriculum. A restrictive definition of a credit hour based on classroom time alone could discourage the kind of innovation that enables colleges and universities to serve various types of students. The Federal Credit Hour Rule has also added extra responsibility to accrediting organizations. The Credit Hour Rule will create additional responsibilities for institutions, such as rewriting their student handbooks, reviewing syllabi, and monitoring financial aid refunds. All of this without any additional resources. The Federal Credit Hour could create obstacles and challenges for online education at a time when it is needed most.